All right, everyone. Welcome. My name is Sophie Alexander, Nutritional Wellness Center. I'm giving a talk this evening all about why managing stress isn't working anymore. I'm really excited to share this conversation and have this conversation with you. I think it's very relevant for just right now, how I hear so many clients are feeling. And so this is going to be a root cause conversation just about why everyone's feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, stuck even when they feel like they're doing everything right. And this is what I see with so many folks and how I feel at times myself, right? And so um, yeah, I hope you find it just relevant and gets you thinking about these things in different ways. So I want to just set a scene for you, describe something for you, right? See if it feels familiar, right? Introduce you to someone, we call her Sarah. She wakes up already exhausted. She eats well. She exercises. She tries to meditate. She goes to therapy. She works to set boundaries in her life. She takes her supplements. She reads the books that she hears are good to read. She does the work. But yet she still feels wired, but tired, anxious for no clear reason, reactive over small things. It's just like her body isn't responding the way that it used to. And like she's doing really everything right, that feeling, but she feels stuck. And if that feels really personal, if it feels like it's describing you, this is exactly who this talk is for, because you're not broken or failing. Do you think you're missing a deeper piece of the picture? And this is just very, very common. So the problem with this whole idea and this concept that we have that we're managing stress, right, is what we're told to do is take downtime, breathe deeply, meditate, stop in our days, right? Exercise more, or sometimes women are told to exercise less. We're told to practice gratitude, sleep 8 hours, set better limits, think more positively. Um, and I really think these are all valuable tools. And, I practice some of these things. But they do treat stress like a behavior problem. Um, what I really want to be talking about tonight is nervous system dysregulation, right? Because when your nervous system is dysregulated, your hormones are disrupted, your body's inflamed, and no more amount of willpower will override the biology that's happening. And so I like to think of it as like you're managing stress without understanding that it's like just, yeah, well, using this concept of just trying to manage the stress um, instead of understand the stress is like mopping the floor and while your tap is just still running, right? So there's just not going to be cleaning up the water. All right, let me tweak one little thing here. Okay, just hearing. You all can just double check that you're muted. I'm just getting a little background brief noise. I appreciate that. Okay, thank you. It's gone. Um, all right, so yeah, this concept I want to talk about and this shift I want us all to work on is managing stress versus understanding stress. So, under the idea of managing stress, it focuses on your symptoms. It asks, how do I feel less stressed right now? Right? You apply coping tools on top of unresolved root causes. So it just requires this constant effort. And I do find that people like just feel like yet another thing they have to do. And its results then plateau or fade over time. When we think about it more about understanding the stress, we're focusing more on a root cause approach. We ask, why is my system stuck in this state? It addresses thinking actually about the nervous system and how it regulates. We have more of a hormonal component worked in. We think about the gut, think about emotional patterns and their sourcing. So I find that looking at it from this angle creates a more lasting compounding change. Um, and one is like managing a fire, and the other is we're working to remove the fuel. So there are many hidden causes of chronic stress. Um, and these are the root causes that I think traditional stress advice doesn't address or think about as much. But this is what drives the exhaustion, the anxiety, disconnection that folks feel. A big part of it is nervous system dysregulation, a system stuck in fight or flight. You don't shift back into your safety and your rest response, which is your parasympathetic mode of your body. And that can, you don't shift back even when life is calm, or you're like, oh, I don't like feel like there's something majorly going on, but I'm amped up, I'm keyed up, I'm not sleeping. That's being stuck in fight or flight. Um, when there's perfectionism and people pleasing, right? A lot of folks who are chronically approval seeking and have a lot of self-criticism that keep the body in a low grade stress loop, even on days when that's not happening or it's a quieter days. There's emotional suppression, right? Unfelt emotions don't just disappear. They become tension, they become anxiety, they become fatigue, and they become inflammation stored in the body. And then there's hormone disruption, right? Cortisol imbalances. Right? Cortisol is our stress hormone response made by the adrenal glands. And we're not meant to be constantly producing a high amount of cortisol, right? Ideally, it's more situational specific. It comes and then it goes. But for so many of us, it's a dominant production, right? And this can affect sleep, it can affect our metabolism, our mood, and our immune function, and often silently, just for years, it throws off the hormonal cascade, excuse me. So the whole idea here is like your body is talking, but are you listening? Are you connecting the dots? Um, because there's a whole gut health and inflammation connection. Over 70% of your immune system lives in your gut. So when there's this chronic inflammation, it sends stress signals to your brain continuously. And this also can contribute to anxiety, brain fog, fatigue. That for sure, you can meditate and that might help, but it's not going to correct that inflammation and that immune engagement. Toxin exposure, I see is a huge component because bodies are inundated every day with exposures to pesticides, plastics, seed oils, which I mean like canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, grapeseed oil, and processed food additives. And this places a constant burden on the nervous system, on your liver. The liver has a very hard time breaking down these oils. It takes the liver longer to clear these oils out of the body than it takes the body to process sugar. And so you can think, oh, I ate it one day, that's it, and then it's gone. But because it takes the body much longer to break it down and clear it, it's in your system, creating inflammation, draining resilience, or much days longer. I'm forgetting the exact number right now of how long it takes. Unfortunately, I'm getting that number, but um, so you can have poor recovery despite having healthy habits as well. So if you're doing everything right, but still waking up tired, your body just may lack the raw nutrient materials that's needed to repair, regulate, and restore itself. And so just effort of, I'm going to manage my stress, I'm going to uh, do, yeah, these stress management exercises, and that effort alone can't replace these nutrient resources that you're depleted in. And then a pattern I think is really worth calling out, naming. I see a lot is with high performers, high achievers, or folks who struggle the most. They're often folks who are the last to slow down and the hardest hit by chronic stress because they build an identity around pushing through, optimizing, and producing. So resting feels like failure, and asking for help feels like weakness. And these same traits that drive success, right? The perfectionism, the high standards, the deep responsibility, it also contributes to the nervous system being in a constant state of high alert. And your body doesn't know the difference between a deadline and a lion, right? They say our bodies are this stress response that we are structured with or have developed over our, humans have existed, right? We're really meant to be these acute responses to getting away from an acute danger, like running from a lion. But now we live in these times where these stressors just are constant, right? And we're always on that high alert. So if these phrases identify with you, like I'll rest when it's done, or I should be able to handle this, other people have it harder, I just have to try harder, I just have to push through. I feel like these folks are often carrying the deepest levels of physiological stress, and their system doesn't break loudly, right? It just erodes over time. So I want to structure a framework that I think stops chasing symptoms and identifies more the root cause for folks. And so one way you can begin is, instead of asking, how do I manage this better? It's start asking these root cause questions. Is my nervous system safe? Um, is my body stuck in survival mode? And if it is, what is keeping it there? What am I carrying emotionally? Are there unprocessed emotions, like unresolved patterns or identity burdens, adding to my load? Am I nourishing, or am I just eating? So, does my body have the raw materials it needs to regulate hormones and repair tissue? And what is my body being exposed to? So, are environmental toxins, inflammatory foods, or poor sleep silently overloading my system? And depending on the answers, gosh, then we can point you in different directions, right? Because there's so many different tools these are all big topics just on their own, but there are tools that we can point you towards. Um, but I do want to focus on some practical applications too, practical tools for your nervous system regulation. You may have heard of some of these. Some of them might feel like they're just wellness trends, but they're not. Like they're biological signals to tell your nervous system it's safe and it's okay to rest and okay to repair. One of them is morning light. 10 minutes of natural light within 30 minutes of waking anchors your cortisol rhythm for the entire day. And that very much then affects your own melatonin production, which affects then your own sleep and circadian rhythm, as well as cortisol, meaning your stress handling. Right? Reducing inflammatory foods makes a big difference. I quickly listed all the seed oils, um, but we find that these are very inflammatory. Um, In general, I find that reducing inflammatory foods, so the seed oils, the corn, soy, gosh, I've got wheat missing from that list, but ultra processed foods, things that have a long ingredients list of things you don't necessarily recognize, trigger inflammation that the nervous system registers as a threat. Focusing on your blood sugar balance and your protein intake is one of the fastest ways to calm a dysregulated nervous system. So I find that starting every meal with protein and whole foods is significant. Um, and and I would argue that folks who are really struggling with nervous system regulation shouldn't fast, right? Shouldn't delay eating. That getting morning light and getting protein in within the first hour of getting up really helps with that blood sugar stability. And having a steady sleep rhythm, so consistent sleeping times and waking times, even on weekends, can be a very powerful way to support hormonal rhythm, um, support your cortisol pattern as well. And I mean, we want to be getting enough sleep as well, but the consistency of your falling asleep and waking times contributes a lot as well. Breath work is a really powerful um, regulation tool. A very focusing slowly on your exhale does activate the vagus nerve and actively shifts the body from your what's called that sympathetic, that stress, fight or flight response, to the parasympathetic, your rest and repair, rest and digest response, it's often called. Even short periods of time, um, right? Even 3 minutes, fine, can help shift that pattern. Um, I feel my best when I'm really deliberate about it, and I do it for longer stretches. I tend to combine it with some other body work, and that often lasts about a half an hour. And I'm always amazed how much it shifts my state when I'm really working on like some deep diaphragmatic breathing. Setting boundaries. Saying no is not just emotional self-care. We want to address that every time you override your own needs to please others, your body also perceives that and registers that as a threat signal. And you may have heard a bunch about grounding. I feel like that's something that more people are hearing about. Grounding is when you actually get your feet on the earth, right? You connect with the earth's Schumann resonance. Um, and so getting outside and walking, 20-minute walk, but especially if it's in nature, and even more so if it's barefoot on the earth, lowers cortisol, improves mood, and resets your nervous system tone. If you're not able to do that, there are other grounding tools, or there are other low frequency tools like pulsed electromagnetic field therapy that can bring you back down to that resonance that the earth gives off, which is at an 8 hertz resonance. Um, and then, gosh, giving your body safety cues, right? So your nervous system needs regular evidence that you are safe, and even more so if you're kind of recovering from chronic stress. So that's warm connection, laughter, silliness, silly movies, right? Pleasure is not, it's not luxury, it's medicine. So sharing all that, I just want you to constantly just be pausing throughout this talk and reflecting. Um, and just these are just some questions to sit with, or to revisit this slide at another time, because there's a lot here. But to take a breath and consider these honestly, and not judging yourself, just to be curious, right? To think about, what has trying harder cost you physically, emotionally, and relationally? What emotions do you consistently push through rather than feel? When did you last feel genuinely rested? Like, not just slept, but truly felt restored? And what would it mean to stop managing your stress and actually listen to it instead? And yeah, these answers reveal where your healing needs to begin. So those of you who are new to Nutritional Wellness Center, um, I want to introduce you to how this all ties into how we approach things. Um, we use a technique called nutrition response testing, which is a non-invasive technique, very clinically focused, meaning focusing on um, what's right in front of us, what the clients we're working with are expressing and needing. Um, and we use it to identify what the body actually needs, not just some cookie cutter protocol saying what everybody needs, right? So when we find that when we move away from guessing or following any kind of generic protocol, we use the body's own neurological reflexes to pinpoint which organs and systems are under stress, and what nutritional deficiencies exist, and what specific lifestyle changes, whole food supplement support will allow the body to begin healing at this root level. Um, so we just give every person a personalized program from what their body communicates, and we build from there. So it's not, yeah, as we say, non-invasive, no needles, no labs, very customized, individualized, and we look at these root cause questions that I've just walked you through, right? And and we can perceive when there's a big emotional block or emotional component, and then we can talk to you and refer to other tools that you can use to process those stuck emotions, or to help release them. But we can look and identify if there's core nutrient deficiencies. The body is really just in a state of depletion. And um, particularly the toxicity components that the body is stuck on and are driving inflammation and that nervous system dysregulation. So I think healing doesn't begin by trying harder. I think it begins by listening differently. So I strongly believe that, especially us high functioning performing women, mothers, especially mothers holding down jobs as well, right? You're not lazy, you're not dramatic, you're not failing. Your body has been speaking to you, but it's in the language of exhaustion and anxiety and disconnection. And it's just asking for a different kind of connection or attention, excuse me. And so the goal is not to be stronger than your stress. The goal is to understand it so well and so deeply that it no longer has to scream to get your attention. So if you're not yet a client, I think your next step starts by giving us a call. The initial assessment is the first step toward understanding what your body needs and not what it's been managing around. And during that assessment, me and my team, right, we will use nutrition response testing to begin really looking at these primary places where your body is stuck. And I encourage you to reach out and schedule with us today. If you're already a client, I think you've been working on these types of themes and you know the difference of what that can make. And I encourage you to sit with just some of these other concepts that maybe we haven't delved into yet. Maybe particularly more of the pushing through or the boundaries or stuck emotions. And let's talk about if that resonates with you. Let's talk about that and let's explore those tools together. And then I also want you to think, who else you could share this talk with, right? Who else is tired, overwhelmed, doing everything right and struggling? And please share this talk with them, right? This could really be a moment that changes everything for someone that you love. I think the greatest gift we can give someone is a new way of understanding themselves. And I think that's where this work really shines. Great. So thank you so much for joining me, folks. Right. And I hope you take away the message from today that the more your body is your teacher, right? And the more we work to resonate with it and to listen to it and not fight it, the more then we can achieve the health outcomes that we're really looking for. Um, so I am going to hang out here for a few minutes if any of you have any questions. And if not, totally understand this. There's just some things here to sit with and to reflect on. And I look forward to having further conversations with all of you about what you took away from this evening.